1 deputy, 2 deputy, 3 deputy, 4 entered the apartment of 1401 to clear it, or no one else, whether it be a victim, suspect, or other party, is present. This was accomplished by announcing multiple times, "Sheriff's office, anybody else, make your presence known. Sheriff's office, make your presence known. Sheriff's office, open the door," as the deputies walked through the apartment, ensuring no one else was in the apartment that needed help or posed a threat. So let me paint this picture for you. So for them, these 4 deputies to enter the apartment to clear it, they stepped over Mr. Fortson, stepped over him. Stepped over this man who is bleeding all over the floor. And the only one with common sense there who was by Mr. Fortson's side as he's clinging to life is his little dog. On May 3rd, 2024, in Okaloosa County, Florida, former deputy Eddie Duran Jr. responded to a unverified domestic disturbance, which ultimately resulted in Roger Fortson losing his life. In this video, we are going to take a look at the body-worn camera of former deputy Eddie Duran Jr. So this is a warning to those who may not want to see this, who may be sensitive. I will try my best to insert a chapter following that video. We're going to also take a look at the internal affairs interview of Eddie Duran. And we're going to also go over the timestamps of his body-worn camera. And we're going to talk about some other things that played a part in the inconsistencies of the body-worn camera video and also the internal affairs interview. It starts out, we're getting the POV from the body-worn camera of Duran. So he's approaching what looks like the clubhouse or the leasing, that's said right on the sign, the leasing center.
Howdy, sir.
He approaches and greets that gentleman as, "Howdy, sir."
What's going on? I'm not sure. I just was told to let her know if you guys come by.
Okay.
So I'm going to give her a quick call and let you guys know.
Okay.
Let her know that
So there was a fight going on or something?
I was not present for that.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
So as you see, he doesn't really have nothing. That's not the complainant. That's not the location of the incident. So he's walking across the parking lot to meet with
Are they fighting
the
or
leasing
something?
agent. And the first thing he asks is, they're fighting or something? Is they fighting?
Saying that it happens frequently,
Okay.
but this time it sounded like it was getting out of hand.
Okay, which store?
And this information here from this leasing office employee, she did not witness any of this. This is hearsay. And so this is the first time I've heard something about, let me pause. This is the first time that I've ever heard the term fourth party used. Like we've heard third party, but this here is fourth party. This should have enabled was more like, hey, who is this complainant? Who is this person that witnessed this? Who is this? Because this is not taking place in officers present. We don't have the actual complainant. It's fourth party information from a neighbor. And so the leasing agent is now talking about
Someone yelled like, "Shut the up," like, "you stupid B word," and all this other stuff, and I heard a slap, like right after it, but I wasn't sure where it came from.
Okay.
And I couldn't call, I didn't want to call the police and
Which room is
so
1401.
the leasing agent just gave information that was really irrelevant. Like, I heard something 2 weeks ago. Still says they, not a name or description, nothing. And this being a military community, it's like, okay, the people who lived there 2 weeks ago could be a completely different set of people who occupy it right now. You know how fast they flip those apartments, get somebody in there. Yeah, that's really irrelevant. But what she's like providing is like charge, hey, there's a crime in progress, charge, exigent circumstances, which is not. It's absolutely not. But we'll keep on watching. So this right here is a rookie mistake. Like, he is in the elevator. As law enforcement, you do not get into the elevator. What if you get stuck and you really are supposed to respond to a hot call, but you're stuck on the elevator? And as you saw that, Duran, he's in the elevator. He unholstered something. Check this out. He unholstered something, and then he starts waving it in front of the door because you can see this flashing light on the doors of the elevator. So he was being very professional, playing with,
312 and
equipment on the elevator. So he calls something to the other unit, but is muted out. But I want y'all to listen right here. Listen. It's completely quiet. The birds are chirping. There's a car horn in the parking lot, but it's completely quiet. You don't hear anything out of the ordinary. No signs of a disturbance. Door isn't broken open. And he's listening. You hear the birds chirping. You don't hear anything. You hear the little dog bark. And you see a staircase is right there. He should have took the steps. Lazy. Did you hear that? Somebody just asked, who is it? You hear that? Listen. Take a listen. Somebody said, who is it? Who is it? You could tell it's a man's voice. Who is it? And he says, yes. Nothing.
Sheriff's office, open the door.
Nobody has to open the door for you.
Sheriff's office, open the door.
Why? Why? No one has to open the door for you.
Step out. Drop the gun! Drop the gun!
It's over there.
Drop the gun!
I don't have it.
312, shots fired. Suspect down. Do not move! 312, get EMS my location.
Okay, we're gonna play this back, but I'm gonna slow it down. I'm gonna turn off the sound, okay? Because it's gonna sound weird. Then I want you to pay attention to this. It says the door is opening. Mr. Fortson, he has a little dog right there that's behind his left leg. While the deputy already has his firearm fixated on Mr. Fortson's firearm is within the frame, but it is straight down at his side. His left hand is raised up to reveal that it is open. Mr. Fortson, his arm is still up in a defensive as he's losing his balance. He falls so hard that his legs are up in the air as he's falling. And he continues to, not hide or conceal anything. His hand comes up showing it was empty. I don't have it. So now we're going to go to the Okaloosa County Sheriff's Office website, and I will leave a link for this in the comments. So they actually have it posted where on the 31st, the news release, it announced that they have terminated Eddie Duran. And it took from the incident occurring May 3rd to May 31st for Duran to be terminated. The link at the bottom of the page takes you directly to the interview that Internal Affairs conducted on Eddie Duran. So it gives you a lot of synopsis of what happens, a summary. We're going to first go to where they began to list the events and its timestamp. And I'm going to take you here to the timestamp of 16/31/31. This was after Duran knocked on the door the first time, did not announce himself nor stand in the area of the door where someone can visibly see that it was a sheriff's deputy at the door. It says that a voice from inside the apartment, 1401, could be heard. The voice was not clear, but possibly said, "Who is it?" Now we heard, "Who is it?" Mr. Fortson did not get a response, okay? Now we're going to scroll down to where Mr. Fortson's door began to open. So that's when the timestamp started. The door started to open at 0. Next, Deputy Duran said, "Step back." Deputy Duran's firearm came into frame. Mr. Fortson's right hand and his firearm came into frame. The firearm is down at his side, pointed straight down. Mr. Fortson's left hand began raising with his palm facing outwards. Deputy Duran discharged his firearm. A slight amount of smoke near where Deputy Duran's muzzle was located became visible in the frame. This was likely the first shot. Mr. Fortson still had his firearm in his right hand. Mr. Fortson began falling back towards his right side while his left hand moved towards his right shoulder area. Deputy Duran discharged his firearm. A slight amount of smoke near where Deputy Duran's muzzle was located became visible in the frame. This was likely the second shot. Mr. Fortson continued to fall backwards toward his right side while he clutched his upper right chest with his left hand. Mr. Fortson still had his firearm in his right hand. Deputy Duran discharged his firearm. A slight amount of smoke near where Deputy Duran's muzzle was located became visible in the frame. This was likely the third shot. Mr. Fortson continued to fall backwards towards his right side while he clutched his upper right chest with his left hand. Mr. Fortson still had his firearm in his right hand. Deputy Duran discharged his firearm. A slight amount of smoke near where Deputy Duran's muzzle was located became visible in the frame. This is likely the fourth shot. Mr. Fortson continued to fall backwards toward his right side while he clutched his upper right chest with his left hand. Mr. Fortson still had his firearm in his right hand. Mr. Fortson's right hand struck the ground as he was falling. Mr. Fortson's right hip area struck the ground as he was falling. His right hand was opening. Deputy Duran discharged his firearm. There were 5 shots heard on the body-worn camera video, but only 4 could be tracked by looking for frames where slight smoke appeared. Using just sound, this is the estimated time for the 5th shot heard on the body-worn camera video. Mr. Fortson's right hand was obscured from camera view by his left thigh. Mr. Fortson had fallen to his right side with his feet closest to the door. Deputy Duran began removing his left hand from his firearm. A sound indicated Deputy Duran's left hand struck something on his chest. Mr. Fortson's right hand was visible through between his legs on the body-worn camera video. The firearm was no longer in his hand. The firearm was not visible on the body-worn camera video. Deputy Duran said, "Drop the gun, drop the gun." Mr. Fortson said, "It's over there." Deputy Duran said, "Drop the gun." Mr. Fortson said, "I don't have it." So with Mr. Fortson's last breaths, after taking possibly 5 shots center mass, used his last breaths to cooperate. He was still cooperating, compliant, answering questions. "It's over there. I don't have it." Deputy Duran called over the radio. 312, shots fired, suspect down. When did Mr. Fortson become a suspect? So this right here was one of those trigger words, for lack of a better word, a trigger word to put in the responding deputy and everybody else on the radio who was listening that, oh, he got something. Run, 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 run. Deputy Duran told Mr. Fortson, "Do not move." That was heartless. He just took 5 shots center mass and he's trying to save his own life and you're telling him not to move. Deputy Duran called over the radio, 312, "Get EMS to my location." Other deputies began arriving on scene. Mr. Fortson said, "I can't breathe." So with his last 3 breaths, Mr. Fortson, "I don't have it. It's over there. I can't breathe." Meanwhile, Deputy Duran told Mr. Fortson, "Do not move. Stop moving. Stop moving." And I'm pretty sure he's still drawing down on Mr. Fortson. Mr. Fortson rolled onto his right side, onto his back. Blood was visible on the floor. Deputy Duran called over the radio, 312, "Have EMS step it up. He's bleeding profusely. Multiple gunshot wounds to the chest. Black male." Was that necessary? So is there a different step it up time for an Asian man? Is there a different step it up response time for a white male? Is there a different step it up response time for a Hispanic male? Is there a different step it up response time for a black male? Or, hey, slow it down, just a black male. Deputy Duran told Mr. Fortson, "Hang on, man. We got EMS coming for you. Don't move." Don't move. He's in agony right there on the floor. This is the part that pisses me off, is that I've noticed with Black American men, when it comes to non-Black law enforcement officers, they don't give them the utmost respect. They don't respond to them as "Sir," Mr. Fortson, "Sir." It's, "Hang on, man. Bro, what's up, man?" You get those. And that is so damn disrespectful. And if that happens to you, I want you to write a fucking complaint about it, because that is just terrible. And you can see it right here. These are things where Duran already built them up in his mind. And I'm pretty sure that after the other deputies got there, The officers on scene ran Mr. Fortson for felony convictions. They ran his gun for stolen. They searched his apartment for drugs or any other thing illegal, all to justify Duran taking his life. That I've been in incidents and witnessed where I was investigating officer wrongdoing, and the other officers, the white officers on scene, they tried everything to justify the white officers wrongdoing to Black men who are victims in these types of situations. I've witnessed it. I'm pretty sure of it. So deputies then approached Deputy Duran at the door. Deputy Duran told the other deputies he had a gun as soon as he opened the door. This statement is he's trying to justify what he did. He had a gun. He had a gun. 1 deputy, 2 deputy, 3 deputy, 4 entered the apartment of 1401 to clear it and ensure no one else, whether it be a victim, suspect, or other party, is present. This was accomplished by announcing multiple times, Sheriff's Office, anybody else, make your presence known. Sheriff's Office, make your presence known. Sheriff's Office, open the door. As the deputies walked through the apartment, ensuring no one else was in the apartment that needed help or posed a threat. So let me paint this picture for you. So for them, these 4 deputies to enter the apartment to clear it, they stepped over Mr. Fortson, stepped over him, stepped over this man who is bleeding all over the floor. And the only one with common sense there who was by Mr. Fortson's side as he's clinging to life is his little dog. You tell me, when does an animal have more empathy, more sympathy for a human being than other human beings? It's straight evil, straight fucking evil. After that, the deputies began to render aid. Deputy Duran said, I'm going to step out as he exited the apartment. Deputy Dugray transitioned from clearing the apartment to rendering aid to Mr. Fortson. Deputy Duran said, motherfuck. Deputy Duran started walking north of the breezeway away from apartment 1401. While he was in the breezeway, Deputy Duran struck a wall with his right fist and said, fuck. Yeah, because you know you fucked up. Deputy Duran, who had turned around and was walking south in the breezeway, was approached by Corporal Casey Duh. Casey Duh asked, you are right. Deputy Duran answered, yeah. As soon as he opened the door, there's a gun. Not what was he doing with the gun that would justify you pulling a trigger on him. What is just suspect, Black man, gun. On page 12 starts the interview with Eddie Duran, an internal affairs investigator. And this occurred 5/22/24, nearly 3 weeks after the incident. Keep that in mind. His interview occurred 3 weeks after the incident. I want you to also take note that Duran was actually able to have his attorney present as his representative. Now, that's something that's completely foreign to me. Any of the times that I've experienced when it's internal affairs, it was not a criminal interrogation, which is why, usually like your attorney or your union rep is not present. I don't know. It could be different. I don't know what's going on. This just seemed odd to me that Duran was able to have his attorney present. So the write-up begins to do this I Love Me page of Duran, which was not afforded to Mr. Fortson. So they began talking about his degrees and training. One thing here that stood out was that Duran was in the Army from 03 to 14 with a combat deployment to Iraq in 08. That's the one thing that always jumps out at me because it sounds so honorable, like, oh, you served your country. Oh, you went to Iraq. Oh, you did this. Oh, you did that. Many of these individuals, and I'm not saying all, I'm saying some, in particular the ones that I've encountered, Army, Marine, when they're in Iraq, they've committed some nasty crimes, some terrible crimes against the civilians in that area. Absolutely terrible. I've had stories told to me where a certain individual who is highly decorated, I won't say which branch and I won't say which award, highly decorated, admitting to when they're out on their patrol, little kids coming up to their vehicle asking for candy and stuff like that. And him and others, it became a common practice to urinate in Gatorade bottles, loosen the cap, and throw them at the children. Throwing urine on children, no matter where they are, but they're overseas. Absolutely disgusting. This is who I get to say I'm a veteran with, people who do nasty stuff like this. But they get to come back to the US and never face what they've done overseas. They come back over here. They get hired onto police departments and they bring that same attitude, those same behaviors over here to our communities and to our cities. If anything, I must say, I would say that the Okaloosa County Sheriff's Office hired the wrong veteran because the discipline that was shown in Mr. Fortson, he would have afforded and would have been a much better deputy than Duran. So aside from all of this, I love me page and stuff like that, I'm going to scroll down to Duran's statement. They also bring up the interviewer asks Duran about training on direct to threat principles. And the direct to threat principles is like when you have an active shooter situation. And ironically, this is Florida. I think it was the Parkland school shooting where the officer did not go into the school to confront the active shooter. It went back and forth to court. I didn't follow too much of where that went, but that's where this direct to threat. So Duran was automatically programming himself, to go be over the top in a situation, which when he arrived on scene and the things that he could articulate that he encountered brought that way down, but he was still way up here. On page 15, the interviewer asked Duran if he heard signs of a disturbance as he was walking down the breezeway. He answered, "No, sir." Got it. No, sir, for that one. But nothing, no sign of respect for Mr. Fortson. When Deputy Duran arrived at the door to 1401, he listens, starts to knock, and then listens again. I asked him if he heard anything during that time. He said, just to verify I wasn't hearing anything or did hear anything, I wanted to ensure that if there was a disturbance or scuffle going on, I could positively identify it. But you can positively identify the complainant and what you had. Deputy Duran said that he had not heard anything from the apartment at that time. It was completely peaceful. You can continue to read why Duran said he danced around the door. The interviewer, I asked Duran why he did not announce himself when he knocked on the door the first time. He said, initially, what I'll do is knock on the door and I'm kind of listen for a response. Generally, if there's a who's there, which it was, who is it or what do you want? Get away from the doors, whatever the response is. So I'll knock in I guess you could say normal, typical knock to see what the response is going to be. And I would kind of gauge it, is the person sounding aggressive? Is the person sounding okay, calm, or, is it just a who is it or more like aggressive, He's explaining. But what he did not admit to was hearing who is it and failing to answer. I asked Deputy Duran if he heard anything from inside the apartment before the door opened, and he said yes and explained, I can hear somewhat of a muffled voice. I replayed Deputy Duran's body-worn camera video after the first knock and before the second knock. I asked him, could you clearly hear what that was? He said, the only thing I could hear was something to the effect of, that was about it, referencing the police. I clarified, okay, so you think you hear the word police? He corrected me, something to the effect of the police. So in this interview, the video that we just watched was replayed for Duran during his interview. And as you see, he conveniently forgot that he heard that was visible, that was clear on the body-worn camera after the first knock, who is it? And he said nothing. So he conveniently danced over that. And the video was being played for him right then and there. He completely left that out. But he automatically goes to, after he announced sheriff's office or something, and the police, something about the police coming out. So he hears that, he selectively heard that, but he selectively did not hear when Mr. Fortson called out, who is it? So he's trying to paint it as if Mr. Fortson was coming to the door aggressive. Something to the effect of, it's the fucking police. So First Amendment, you can say whatever the hell you want. You can even cuss at the police. So yeah, but this was not it, because he couldn't verify that there was a officer at the door. So he continues to talk about why he danced around the door. So I asked Deputy Duran what he said to Mr. Fortson when he opened the door. He answered, "Step back." I asked him why he said step back, and he explained. So as soon as the door opens, I see the individual open the door and he's moving in. What do you mean moving in? I tell him to step back. And then, as he's opening the door, he's starting to move forward. I asked Deputy Duran what Mr. Fortson did in response to his command to step back. And Deputy Duran said he takes a slight step forward with his left leg. I asked if Mr. Fortson was complying with him, Duran, and he answered, "No, sir." I asked Deputy Duran where he saw Mr. Fortson's firearm. He answered, "It was step back gun." Deputy Duran elaborated. As soon as the door initially opens, I see him moving forward. I tell him to step back. But as I'm telling him to step back, I'm looking at his eyes. I immediately look at his hands, which is what I've been trained to do. Look at the eyes, tells me a lot about a person's intent. Look at the hands, obviously tells me if they're empty, open-handed. Left hand, open-handed, balled up, have a gun, weapon, knife, whatever it is. So as I'm taking all of it in, I see him step forward. I see his eyes. I look down. I see his hands. And of course, when I see the gun. So you completely did not see the left hand palm towards you that was extended closest to you. You go and see his firearm. Okay. He's trying to paint it. He's trying to paint this picture of confusion. And so he's going through all this rhetoric about his eyes. I see aggression. He's trying to insert aggression. He's trying to, without saying pre-assault indicators, but there weren't any pre-assault indicators. How do you have a pre-assault indicator when they have a little dog at their left leg as they're opening up the door, trying to look and see who's banging at their door, demanding that the door is open? They comply, open the door. And not if you give him a chance to secure his dog, as a matter of fact, but he's trying to insert that Mr. Fortson has some kind of aggression, which it wasn't there. How do you get aggression from someone with an open palm? It's not there. So I want to go right here, page 18. And this is where we're going to break it down, okay? I asked Deputy Duran what he thought when he saw Mr. Fortson's firearm. He said, "So initially when I see the firearm, the elbow, his hand and the elbow are slightly canted, meaning not straight down. It is in a manner so that his arm is slightly up. So when I see the gun, I immediately see the grip that he has on it, which is a standard pistol grip. I see the back parts of the sights, which of course dovetail sights have on specific guns, have a white U-shaped line on the back of the gun, Glock. So then I see that, and I then immediately, and then Glock. So then I see that, and then I see immediately there is a red or optic, like a red dot, kind of how we have on our guns mounted to the top side of the gun, red herring. Let's break this down. This is super important. Now, I am a firearms instructor, so I'm gonna try to break this all the way down for you, okay? I'm gonna try to adjust my microphone, so I'm gonna stand up and demonstrate exactly what Duran is saying. I have a safe and clear firearm, okay? I would treat every firearm as if it was loaded, okay? So, as Duran is talking about this, he states that initially when I see the firearm, the elbow, his hand, and the elbow are slightly canted, meaning not straight down. So here he goes explaining. He's explaining. He's trying to explain his lies so that he believes it, and he wants the reader who may not be too familiar with firearms, take his picture and run with it. So we saw in a video that Mr. Fortson's arm is straight down. Duran said it's not straight down. The elbow and his hand are slightly canted. When you hear of a cant, it sounds like, I notice a lot of Call of Duty cops, when they're in a cover down position or taking a pause in between rounds of shooting, they will cant their firearm like this. Cant just means it's off to the side. Or if they were like clearing a building or something, it'll be straight to the side so you can see. They'll can it this way so that they can reload. But the cant just means slightly off. But the reader would think it's canted with the elbow slightly canted and bent, the elbow and the hand, meaning that he was in a stance. It is in a manner so that his arm is slightly up. So in your mind, it's going to paint a picture that he's holding his firearm in some fashion like this, okay? I see the gun, and immediately I see the grip that he has on it. So immediately the reader is going to use their imagination and think that he's like, as we always see somebody with their finger on the trigger and ready to aim and shoot. which is a standard pistol grip. So the standard pistol grip, you have your dominant hand on the firearm, finger off the trigger, and then you take your support hand and you put it on the firearm and you are ready to get onto target. Duran's trying to paint this picture that Mr. Fortson opened the door as he was ready to engage into a gun battle, which is absolutely not true. This is where it gets good, y'all. His next part says, I see the back parts of the sights, which of course dovetail sights have on specific guns, have a white U-shaped line on the back of the gun, Glock. So then I see that. Pause. So right here, I'm gonna show you I have 3 empty and clear firearms, 3 of them, okay? So for those who don't know, on the slide of a firearm, you have the front sight, you have the rear sights. I have 3 different firearms made by 3 different manufacturers. This one here is a Smith & Wesson M&P. You see it has 2 white dots on the rear sights. And for you to see the back of the rear sights, you are on this side of the camera. This is your POV, okay? The center firearm is a Sig Sauer, manufactured by Sig Sauer. It has 2 black sights. Now, the firearm I have here, this is a Glock. And as you see, the Glock, the rear sight, it has a white U-shaped line. We saw how Mr. Fortson was standing with his firearm. His arm was straight down in a manner to where we can clearly see that his finger was not on the trigger. But for Fortson to have this view, to know that Mr. Fortson had a white U on the back of his firearm, means not only was Mr. Fortson's firearm facing straight down, it was also in a manner where the muzzle was just about facing the rear of the apartment, nowhere near aimed at Duran. He done fucked up, right? He done fucked up. So you tell me, for Duran to see that Mr. Fortson, that he could see what kind of firearm Mr. Fortson had, he could see the U, the white U. That means his firearm was nowhere pointed towards him and he was in no danger. The interviewer then asked Deputy Duran if he considered moving offline out of the way. Deputy Duran explained his limitations presented by his positioning on the breezeway, which in his mind made moving impractical. Negative. He had all that space. He had all that. He even demanded that the door be open. He did that. He created that situation. And I want to pause here because there was a trial that was televised within the last couple of years. I forget which one, unfortunately. I totally forgot. But I remember in one of the cases, one of the authors of this book, Evaluating Police Use of Force, was called to the stand to testify as an expert witness on use of force. The authors are Seth Stockton, Jeffrey Noble, and Jeffrey Albert. And I bring your attention to page 156. And this term was new to me. I never heard it, but it was quite interesting to read on it. And it's called officer-created jeopardy. Officer-created jeopardy refers to situations in which officers affirmatively create or passively accept unjustifiable risk or threats that could have and should have been avoided. Please go pick up this book. So the bottom of page 18. I asked the deputy if he encountered resistance from Mr. Fortson. His initial answer was no. Deputy Duran did clarify, "I'm sorry, sir, can you clarify resistance?" The interviewer was not given time to clarify. Deputy Duran continued, explaining, because as far as giving him a command to step back, him moving forward would be considered resistance. Now, if you're referencing like a physical resistance, then no. Duran is trying his hardest to justify this, trying his hardest, but his initial answer, no. Mr. Fortson did not offer any kind of resistance, none. So then he had to explain because he know he fucked up right there. Deputy Duran explained when the other deputies got to him, they cleared the apartment looking for other people which may have been inside. I asked him why they cleared the residence before rendering aid. Stepping over Mr. Fortson, stepped over him as he's clinging on to life. And the only one there that had enough sense and empathy in that situation and compassion was Mr. Fortson's dog. You mean to tell me a dog had more compassion than these so-called humans? Straight devils, straight devils. You mean to tell me it took all 4 of y'all to go clear the apartment versus at least 2 standing there to render aid? I've done 2-person building clears and checks all the time, but it's like it took all 4 of y'all to go in there looking for something and left this man bleeding on the fucking floor while y'all went to go fish for something to justify Duran. This is outrageous. This is outrageous. Duran's attorney and representative, Mr. Whitaker, asked Deputy Duran if he had an overwhelming thought, taking everything into account when he decided to use deadly force. Deputy Duran said it was, in all honesty, it was, he's got me. Is it him or is it me at this point? And I need to act as opposed to react. The interviewer follows up on page 21. After Deputy Duran's response, I readdressed the position of Mr. Fortson's firearm. Deputy Duran described the firearm was slightly canted. So as if we're standing, not here by any means, Duran demonstrated a hand position, which would have shown the gun pointed at him. It was kind of in a defensive, looking at what's going on, possibly offensive. I don't really know, but I could see the bend and the hand was here. Deputy Duran demonstrated a hand position which showed the gun was not pointing at him. I don't know, And again, in the video, when I step in the whole deal, then you can see it down. But at that point, we're already engaged. He's using these buzzwords to try to paint it that he was in a gun battle, which it wasn't. It was not. I don't know what was demonstrated at this time. It will only be on the video of this interview to see what Duran was doing. But he was trying his damnness using the word can't, bent arm. But he told on himself because he was able to see the rear sights of Mr. Fortson's firearm, which means if you can see the rear sights, you are not on the business end of it. You are from a position of behind it, which means it was not pointed at you. It was not a threat, not a threat. All right, you can read the rest of this at your own leisure. Duran has since been charged. I believe there's still an outstanding warrant for his arrest. I do want to take you to a page here on the Okaloosa County Sheriff's Office webpage. There's a tab called Sheriff's Posse, and they are certified as auxiliary law enforcement officers in accordance with the standards established by the state of Florida. Members of the posse wear uniforms to those of a deputy and are authorized to wear badges and carry firearms. I thought this was important to bring to your attention. If you do encounter or know of auxiliary police officers, just know that, these are volunteers. They're not employees, but these individuals are present in the Okaloosa County, Sheriff's Department, and they have been authorized to transport prisoners, assist in courtroom security, guard crime scenes, escort dignitaries, backup patrol deputies, provide security for festivals and other events, and perform many other important duties at no cost to the taxpayers. Okay? Take the information, do as you wish. Just for awareness. This information is just for awareness. I just want to say thank you to everyone who has left constructive comments on my last video. My heart goes out and I offer my sincerest condolences. But out of all the wonderful comments, to receive a comment from a family member of, someone who was lost, and thanking me for taking the time out to discuss these things is just amazing. And I thank you so much for watching.